Given the looming U.S. tariffs on Philippine exports, how might this singular event impact the broader EU-ASEAN trade dynamics and the region's diversification strategies?
I'm delighted to join you today. Things are a little murky. Things are a little murky at the moment. I think we have to wait a few more days to see clearly. But I think that the broader picture is the ASEAN, the Association of Southeastern Asian Nations, which is kind of the equivalent of the European Union for the most rapidly growing part of the world, which is precisely made of these 9 or 10 Southeast Asian nations, which are located between Australia, America, and China. And politically, they kind of would like to remain neutral in that new Chinese-American Cold War, which is reshaping the world economy and the Asia-Pacific area. And they are creating a club of like-minded nations, kind of semi-democratic or democratic for the most part, and they believe in trade, modernity, economic growth, etc. That's ASEAN. And there was, until recently, a very strong solidarity between ASEAN nations: Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines. They were really collaborating very nicely in many fields, the economy, finance, trade, even law and regulation. And the perception was that solidarity between ASEAN member states was very, very strong, in spite of, ethnic, religious differences. For example, Vietnam, Cambodia, they are ruled by communist parties. India, Malaysia are majority Muslim countries, etc., etc. But in spite of all the cultural, linguistic, whatever, religious differences, the ASEAN, as a group of nations, was functioning very well, and there was even talk to create an ASEAN currency unit. So really, a lot of deep economic and financial cooperation. And there comes President Trump, right? And when Trump started his, realignment of world trade and finance in early April of that year, 3 months ago, which he called the War of Liberation, initially most experts in Asia and Europe were skeptical about Trump's ability to tear apart ASEAN member states. So most people say, I was in Washington, D.C. in April. I heard the experts around me, at the IMF, World Bank meetings. They were all saying, no way, it's impossible. Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, they have too much to lose if they negotiate with Trump separately. So they will remain under the ASEAN umbrella, and they would insist for the White House to negotiate a trade deal with ASEAN. And here we are, 3 months later. Trump was able to pick them apart, starting with Vietnam. So precisely 4 weeks ago, he signed a trade deal with Vietnam, which is a big surprise, which allowed him really to break, the heart of ASEAN. And then 5 days ago, he signed another trade deal with Indonesia, the details of which will be unveiled in the coming days. But he's got Vietnam and Indonesia in the back, and he already had Singapore. So what I'm coming at is countries like the Philippines now are very isolated, and they will have no choice but to negotiate with Trump and to make concessions.
Well, Professor Salamoni, now considering the Philippines' crucial industrial exports to the U.S. and its deepening security alliance, what strategic leverage can President Marcos Jr. realistically employ to navigate these complex economic pressures?
Good evening. We need to have a look first at Mr. Trump's decision to use the tariff as a weapon in order to negotiate economic agreement and economic treatment with other countries. Number one, President Trump could not do that without really destroying, in my opinion, the legal constitution in America. Because the tariff decision is a decision belong to the Congress. And he cannot raise a tariff without going back to the Congress. And this is part of the Constitution. But Trump, he chose And he said, as he choosing as a president of United States, he's allowed to change the law as he like. And that's not right at all. And it does not happen in any country. And also he destroying some of the really democratic issues in America. And after that, he using the Supreme Court, which he appoint most of the judges of the Supreme Court, to gain a decision after the Court of Appeal in America said to him that your decision to raise the tariff on other country, it is not yours. It has to go to the Congress, and the Congress voted because that's part of the Constitution. He goes back to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court who appointed them, and the Supreme Court has issued a decision which is not related to the tariff, is related to the immigrant from Mexican, and he wants to deport them back. And the lower court, they said that no, you cannot do that because this is illegal to do this. But the Supreme Court said no, for the first time. They said that the lower court cannot, the executive order cannot reduce, or they cannot cancel the executive order of a president. Now he's using that as a tariff situation that he allowed to use the tariff. Now here, Trump, he tried to be imperator of United States, and unfortunately, most of the leaders of the world today is really afraid of him, or afraid to deal with that, because of the bullying which he used to enforce his economic policy.
Then how do you think the Philippine President Marcos Jr. will be able to navigate throughout these pressure tools, the tariffs?
I am coming to that because it's very important. We have to look at Philippines today, the trade deal between Philippines and United States is worth about 23.6 billion a year. Part of that, 14 billion out of that 14.3 is going out from Philippines into United States, and the 9.3 is going from United States into Philippines. And this, it will be electronic from Philippines to United States, and will be food, and will be some of the product of the medical production, and also the BBO there, which is the most important one, which Philippines produce about 36% of the income of the DDR going to Philippines, and that's mainly between United States and that. Mm-hmm. The BBO is the business process, order there, which include accounting, include IT, including service. It's a service product, and including the payroll and all this. It's going to from Philippines. Today, Philippines are forced to negotiate with Trump. But here we can say, Philippines, it's in a very good location. It puts the position of Philippines in a very good position, especially with the South China Sea. And there is a military tie between Philippines and between United States. And the target of the tariff, in my opinion, as an economist, it is directed to China. It's not directed to any other country. And that's why, President Trump, he said we can negotiate with every country. But unfortunately, he wanted to move the companies, especially the American companies, coming out of China to go into find another sources and resource their product in mainly the Asian country or the Southeast Asian country, which he's dealing with and has an agreement with.